Welcome to Aztec Unsolved, where today we'll be discussing the cold case of Gretchen White, or as you may know her, Gretchen the Ghost. So Layla, have you ever met Gretchen?
I personally have not, but I know many staffs and students have reported chills, creaky doors, flickering lights, footsteps, a whole bunch of spooky stuff. But fortunately, I have not encountered her.
So, let's learn a little bit more about her story, shall we?
We shall.
Gretchen White, a 23-year-old girl who grew up in Michigan, was a student at ASU in her senior year. She attended a sorority on campus, and people acquainted with her described her as reserved and quiet, and had been labeled as not the type to run with the wrong crowd. Overall, she was a very nice girl.
Well, she sounds lovely. She's pretty too.
And dead?
And dead, yeah.
Well, here's where things get interesting. Around 2:30 a.m. on March 20th, 1981, Gretchen's neighbors heard a man's voice shouting outside of Gretchen's apartment. Witnesses say the man was shouting something like, "Gretchen, let me in," and the voice sounded familiar. This was because the neighbors heard the same man shouting at Gretchen's about a week earlier, so this was not a first-time occurrence. One neighbor in the apartment complex eventually called the cops about 10 minutes after the shouting began, but when cops arrived, no one was in or outside of Gretchen White's apartment, including herself.
Why would you wait 10 minutes if you're screaming in the apartment next to you?
Maybe they were baking pasta.
Making dinner?
Yeah, they're making dinner. Didn't have time to call the cops.
Nice family dinner with shouting in the background?
Yeah.
Something like that. Perfect, exactly. Makes sense. Checks out.
Only about 4 hours later, police received their second call, this time by a groundskeeper from Corona del Sol High School, reporting a body had been discovered in the parking lot.
That's our school.
That's our school.
That's Corona. She was found here, in the parking lot.
When police arrived, they confirmed that it was Gretchen White, in that she had been strangled and run over with her own car. She was wearing only a bathrobe, and her car was found later back in the parking lot of her apartment complex.
First she's shouted at, then she's strangled, then she's run over with her own car.
Naked.
And that too. And then they moved her car back to her apartment. It's just crazy to me.
No one was ever accused or convicted of her murder. She had been seeing a man on and off for about a year prior to the death. In addition to her family and friends, he was questioned yet not convicted of anything.
The only possible suspect in the case, and he's just, hey, no, you're good. No murder here.
Yeah.
Okay, checks out. Yep, got it.
With so many loose ends unable to be tied up, the case remains cold. Why Corona's parking lot? Why was her car found back at her apartment? Does she still haunt the halls of our high school? And most interesting, who killed Gretchen White? There are too many missing pieces, so for now, the curious cold case of Gretchen White's murder will remain unsolved.